5 people died when a small plane crashed on Sunday at Bartow Municipal Airport in Polk County, Florida. Polk County Sheriff he arrived around 6:30 a.m. on Sunday bearing the small gifts that the employees at a municipal Florida airport had come to expect from him. On Christmas Eve, they were cookies. He also dropped off a flight plan that indicated he would take an approximately 45-minute flight to the Florida Keys for a family getaway before returning later in the day. But shortly after taking off in dense fog near Tampa, the pilot, John H. Shannon, 70, and 4 others, including 2 of his daughters, were killed in a crash, the authorities said. The twin-engine plane burst into flames after going down at Bartow Municipal Airport in Polk County, Florida. The Cessna aircraft took off despite thick fog that had settled over the airport shortly before sunrise and had limited visibility to less than 1/5 of a mile. No one should have attempted to take off in a small plane in that weather, Grady Judd, the Polk County Sheriff, said at a news conference on Sunday. An airport employee who was filming the fog on a cell phone recorded the sounds of the plane taking off and crashing, Sheriff Judd said. The fog was so thick that the plane could not be seen in the video, he said. Also killed on Sunday were 2 of Mr. Shannon's daughters, Olivia Shannon, 24, and Victoria Shannon Worthington, 26, as well as Ms. Worthington's husband, Peter Worthington, 27. A family friend, Krista Clayton, 32, was also on board, the authorities said. The group had planned to eat lunch in Key West. It's a tragedy of monumental proportions when it happens on Christmas Eve, said Sheriff Judd, who said he had been friends with Mr. Shannon for years. Mr. Shannon had been planning to take the trip from Lakeland, Fla, where he'd to the Florida Keys with his daughters for the holidays, said John Liguori, a friend. Over coffee several days ago, Mr. Shannon told him he would depart on Christmas Eve or Christmas, depending on the weather. More than the flight, he was looking forward to spending time with his 2 girls and the husband of his daughter. Mr. Liguori, a lawyer in Lakeland, said in a phone interview. Ms. Worthington and her husband arrived on Friday from Baltimore, where she taught 4th grade English at a public school in Baltimore, and Mr. Worthington attended law school. They were married in June, and her father's Facebook profile photo shows him with his daughters at her wedding. Ms. Shannon attended Southeastern University, a private Christian college in Lakeland. Ms. Clayton, a middle school teacher, had a husband and 2 children, a 3-year-old girl and an 18-month-old. Mr. Liguori said that Mr. Shannon, a longtime personal injury lawyer, changed his lifestyle after he separated from the daughter's mother when they were young. He gave up golf and devoted himself to them, he said. Mr. Shannon had another daughter from a previous marriage, Mr. Liguori said. Mr. Shannon was still practicing law, and had also embraced 2 other passions: politics and planes. He ran for Florida State Representative in 2014 as a Republican and lost in a primary election by fewer than 175 votes. In 2010 he received his pilot's license and flew regularly, including on trips to Alabama to visit a daughter in college, Mr. Liguori said. He said that Mr. Shannon, a former Marine, took both his legal practice and flying seriously. He was very focused when he flew, he said. On Sunday morning, the Cessna 340 briefly lifted off the runway but quickly plunged to the ground, the authorities said. A sheriff's deputy who responded to a 911 call found the wreckage in flames in a grass field. Cause of the crash is under investigation. But Sheriff Judd said it appeared that fog could have been a factor in the accident. About 45 minutes before the plane took off, the National Weather Service in Tampa reported low visibility at regional airports and forecast worsening fog after sunrise. Visibility at the Bartow Airport was 0.15 miles at 7:15 a.m., the Weather Service said. That's being quite generous, Cindy Barrow, the executive director at the Bartow Airport, said in an interview. What I was understanding was that visibility was pretty much zero, Ms. Barrow said that the control tower was closed for Christmas Eve but that pilots like Mr. Shannon can decide to take off on their own. She noted that pilots who fly in those conditions must be experienced because they have to use a plane's instruments, as opposed to looking outside, to determine speed, altitude and direction. Sheriff Judd said a pilot with the Polk County Sheriff's Office who was at the airport at the time of the crash told him that conditions were unsafe for small aircraft. Conditions were not conducive for taking off this morning, the sheriff said.